Actually, the beginning of this year started pretty well for us. So we're seeing more mandates from law firms. We're seeing a lot more mandates from the banks. More mandates still coming in from the buy side. As we've mentioned, buy side was pretty busy 2023, and that's definitely continuing. What I don't see happening is the IPO market or M&A market really coming back particularly strong this year. I mean, most people we're speaking to aren't expecting that. I mean, that seems to be, we're looking at another year that's going to be quiet in that area, which I think, to be honest, may lead to more redundancies. We're already hearing about law firms that are planning to make further cuts. It may mean more firms leaving the territory. A lot of firms, their backbone is corporate and equity capital markets, put simply, and a lot of the other practice areas can often rely on those in order to get that work put across. So if we kind of look forward for the next 12 months, I think a relatively similar year to last year, perhaps slightly better. If you read some articles, they are saying that private equity at some stage this year is really going to start to need to make investments. They can't sit on this dry powder for much longer. Whether or not we'll really see money coming in from the US coming in through Hong Kong into China, potentially that's not too likely, looking at the geopolitical climate. What we may see is money coming from other sources, from the Middle East. There is still a hunger within the world to do deals, right? We're just not seeing them here at the moment, I think, because, again, the geopolitical situation, but also the economic conditions in China at the moment are not conducive to deal making particularly. So in terms of private practice, I think we're still going to see a lot of partner moves. Last year was incredibly busy for that. I think we're going to see a busy year for that again. Partners will move in a tough market. Partners often have to move in a tough market. Either their firm's closing or they're being pushed out, which has happened. Even in areas that are not doing too badly, we see partners being pushed out, and so therefore they need to find new homes. But also, if you are doing well as a partner, why would you stay at a firm where all the other practice areas are doing very badly, where you're essentially keeping the firm afloat with your money, not really making much money on the equity, when you can go to another firm that is perhaps doing a little better and be on a better platform? So I think partners is still likely to be relatively busy this year. We're expecting, and our clients are already talking to us about partner moves, about potential partner searches. So that's looking pretty promising at the moment. So that's kind of private practice for 2024. So for in-house, the hiring freezes of last year seem to be mostly lifted, and if they're not entirely lifted, then they will be banks will be allowed to make those critical hires. But we are seeing a number of new roles coming out of the banks now. And there's been already this year, there's been some notable movements within the marketplace that will require backfilling. So, we're pretty optimistic in terms of the banks. The buy side remains busy. We're getting increasing numbers of instructions, especially from hedge funds. The high frequency trading firms as well. Those kind of firms are looking pretty good. Less so on the private equity side so far, for the reasons we discussed with which apply to private practice. So we're not sure how that's going to look with the year going forward. But I think global markets and derivatives were busy last year. They will continue to be busy. Most of the banks and funds that deal with those areas have found those areas actually have been pretty profitable and have been good last year, and we're likely to see the same this year. Most trading is done on volatility. This year we have quite a number of elections coming up globally that could certainly make the market, exceptionally volatile. So look, I think if you speak to a lot of traders at the moment, or speak to lawyers supporting those traders, actually the year ahead looks pretty strong. I think for the real economy, or so-called real economy, what we would call commerce and industry as opposed to financial services, pretty steady, I feel. That's going to be, we don't see a complete dearth of hiring. The market itself, the real market has come back to an extent. it's improving. We're seeing roles, for example, in retail businesses. It's not looking too bad. IT companies as well. Obviously, there's a bit of a lack of funding going into startups at the moment, but more established businesses seem to be in a better position than they were, certainly sort of coming out of COVID. Insurance, we predict being relatively steady. It's been steady. There was some hiring in insurance last year. There'll be some this year. There generally is. It's a relatively steady area. Retail asset management didn't have a great year last year. Again, we don't see it being particularly great this year, but again, hiring in those areas tends to be more steady. It's not as deal driven as some of the other areas where we tend to work. I think what we'll be seeing perhaps is more hiring in the Greater Bay Area, and we'll gradually start seeing businesses aligning themselves a lot more with that area. That's something that I think we will see. Hong Kong is obviously struggling at the moment with IPOs. Shenzhen has been doing better with them. If you look at GBA and then obviously economic conditions improve, you could argue that the GBA will actually bounce back, and as Hong Kong a part of that, so long as it becomes more aligned, could very much benefit from that and succeed from that.